Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of my Immigrant Diary, the space where we unpack the journeys, the struggles, and the headlines that defines the immigrant experience. I'm your host, Precious, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Wally. So, Wally, how you doing?
Good. We continue to enjoy summer. We had the World Cup here on Monday. Actually, on Friday. No, sorry, no. We had the World Cup on Friday, and I was very surprised to see how much people, Americans actually are into, soccer. So, or football as we call it. So, since moving to the United States, it's always been all that sports, the American football or the NFL is the top sports here in the United States. Then you have baseball, then you have basketball, you have all other sports. But the rest of the world has always been about soccer. But I never felt that. But this World Cup, with the city hosting it, like you could see that a lot of American citizens were really into it. Like you see people dressing up, people chanting, even on the way there, like people are very energized. So for me, it was really good to see that this is something that the city is actually into. And yeah, a lot of people were happy. So I've not seen that kind of energy in a long time. I was really glad.
Wally, I'll tell you, I envy you. I don't, my city, we're not hosting any World Cup matches, so I'm not going to get to experience any of that, fun or public display. But yeah, I get to watch it on TV. So I'm loving it. The World Cup is exciting. And I hope that the impact is, felt way beyond the end of the tournament.
Yes. It's been a fantastic tournament.
Absolutely. All right, so let's just, kickstart and I'll jump right into it, Wally. The Trump administration just announced on Tuesday that they're increasing the U.S. refugee program ceiling to welcome another 10,000 Afrikaners. For those who aren't familiar, Afrikaners are a South African ethnic group, primarily descendants of Dutch settlers. This policy shift is a massive development because refugee camps are usually highly contested here in the US. So adding 10,000 slots specifically for this group is a very deliberate and targeted move by the current administration. Wally?
Yes, I'm sure that there's a lot of problems all over the world, and there are a lot of refugees who are trying to seek asylum in the United States. And I'm sure the Afrikaners themselves, they also have their own challenges. And if you're not aware, there's been this tension between the European descendants who are now South Africans and also the Africans who were the original residents of South Africa. So there's a lot of tension. There's been reports of some violence from the Africans or who are, in this case, they're basically blacks against those who are Afrikaners, who are basically white. So there's been a lot of those kinds of reports, and a lot of. I think it was last year that we had a huge number. I think probably about 10,000 also that came to the United States last year, and they were farmers. So I wonder if the program, as far as the presidency is concerned, that they see it to be actually very successful. If you think about it, it's right now, farmers in the United States are getting very old in age. From what I heard, I think the average age is around like 50 something. It's over 50 for farmers. And you have to think about the future of farming and when you're bringing in refugees, as far as the administration, I'm just guessing here that the administration is saying that we are bringing in these farmers from South Africa and they're actually helping us fill the hole that we need for farmers in the United States. Maybe they don't see other refugees doing the same thing, but they see that these refugees from South Africa, they are filling this hole, and it makes sense for us to encourage more of them to come to the United States. But again, that for me, I'm just, speculating here.
Well, I think there's a value point in that, but we're yet to see reports on whether, these Afrikaners are actually moving into the US and filling the gap, like you mentioned. But as soon as we get more reports, we're definitely going to share that with, our audience. But moving on, I'm just going to jump right into something that, is a form of relief for many people who are in tech and corporate America. A federal judge has officially blocked Trump's proposed $100,000 H-1B visa fee. Now, on our channel, we talked about, this fee in the past, and also we talked about the record about the number of people who have, applied for this and paid for this new fee. It's significant because the impact of $100,000 is a lot. Think about it. When I first said it, what came to mind is, whoa, that's a lot of money. That's a down payment for a house. But
In some places, you buy a house comfortably.
you buy a house, actually. But the reality is that it is a huge cost, and it kind of prices out small and medium-sized businesses in America who are looking for global talent. And so, Wale, what do you think?
In general, I do understand the reason why the Trump administration went about the H-1B visa this way. On one hand, America does need talent, because if America does not compete in the global talent market, what's going to happen? The talent will simply move to other countries, and those countries will benefit from it. The wealthiest man in the world right now is Elon Musk. By far, he's the richest man in the world, and he's a migrant. Coincidentally, he's also a migrant from South Africa, although his own reasons for moving definitely different, not as a refugee. But he's someone that has created so many things in the United States, so many jobs. Space travel is one of the biggest ones. Tesla is one of the biggest companies in the world. So he has Tesla and SpaceX in the most valuable companies in the world. Just one man, and getting into that top 500 companies in the world is extremely difficult. It's an obvious evidence of how immigrants can benefit the United States, especially talented immigrants can benefit the United States. So you want to be able to give everyone the opportunity to be able to do that. But it is also true that a lot of companies have been taking advantage of the H-1B, where there will be an American that they could hire. They don't even look into that. They would rather go and hire someone who is a foreigner, and they will pay them less. So you have many situations where even jobs that are not in high demand, people are being hired for those roles. Plus, there's a lot of the frauds that has been going on in the country. So you understand why the Trump administration, at least I understand why the Trump administration went about it that way. But it is still, I also still completely understand the judge saying that this is definitely going to cut off, especially smaller companies who can afford the $100,000. It's going to cut them off from being able to get any kind of global talent. And one of the ideas, as far as I understand, for the H-1B is that it should give every company the opportunity to be able to apply for whoever it is that they want to hire without kneecapping or, just giving advantage to bigger companies, for example, but making the playing field a level one for all companies. So I can see both sides of the argument. It's great news for a lot of immigrants that are trying to move to the United States, or maybe they've even gotten a job previously, but the Trump administration put a $100,000 bill on the visa. Now they couldn't come any longer. I think there is a balance to be found somewhere. One of the biggest ones is the fraud that the Trump administration is tackling. And like you said, the last time, most of those that were actually hired studied in the United States. So for me, that's a big win. But then also there were less applications. Whether that is due to the fraud detection or not, we don't really have the numbers for that for now. But I think there's a balance to be found somewhere.
Well spoken, and I agree completely, entirely with you. And I know that it's a positive welcome for immigrants who are within this category and hoping that they can apply for their H-1B visas. Companies who are trying to file can actually, pursue global talent. Honestly, I completely agree with you, and I completely think that this is welcomed. All right, moving from a major victory to something where you feel like, what were you thinking? I know as a channel, we always talked about employment on this, and but this next story is a heavy cautionary tale. A Nigerian man recently jailed in the US for identity fraud after using fake documents to secure a cybersecurity job, of all jobs. So let's get this right. You lied on your document to get a job in cybersecurity, the very department whose job is to detect fraud and breaches. So it was alleged that these Nigerians stole identity and fabricated credentials to get hired. This kind of story puts pressure on the US job market for immigrants, and this is a huge concern. Yes, I agree the hustle is real, but desperation can lead to some craziness, as this turns out to be.
I don't know whether to call this innovative or entrepreneurial or whatever. Like he's just chasing after the bag. I was just reading the story, and first of all, he had a commercial driver. When he was arrested, he had a commercial driver's license on him that did not have his name. I think that was what tipped off the police officers when he was stopped. And then he had another ID that belonged to like a native Indian settlement somewhere. The guy just.
What's this guy? Like, who's this guy?
It looks like, because they didn't say that his residence is actually fraudulent. It looks like that one was valid. So he had a valid fraudulent. He had a valid residence, a valid green card. But he decided to now say because he needed this job so badly, he just starts impersonating and stealing identities up and down. How do you get to that point?
Like, you have valid documentation to work, then you create fraudulent documents to get a certain job, because obviously this looks like a security clearance required job.
Yeah, very likely. Right?
Yeah. So you probably went to get fraudulent documents to qualify for a security clearance job. So he has a green card, probably will not qualify because you're citizens, because cybersecurity job that requires security clearance, a job specifically for US citizens with security clearance. So he's a green card holder who most likely don't have security clearance. This guy is crazy. Wally, he's insane.
Yeah, it looks to me like it. I think that's the correct way to describe him.
No, there's no other way to say it. He's insane. Because there are many jobs out here that you can get, even in some form of cybersecurity, that do not require security clearance. That does not require you to be a US citizen. So if he has a valid, work authorization, he has to be insane to have taken that step.
Yes, I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't have any. What are we supposed to think of it? Like, think about it. What are we supposed to make of it? What would anybody in their right senses make of this? That this person is insane. He needs to be checked. No, it doesn't make any sense. Do you understand? Because I you and I know how people, are fighting to regularize their papers to ensure they have the right documentation to work.
Yeah.
We know how people are trying to even immigrate with all the different processes we talked about, asylum, or, H-1B visa, and this person has a green card. This person has authorization to work. There's no other explanation to it than to say this person has a screw loose in his brain, because there are jobs out there that he qualifies for that do not require US citizenship and does not require a security clearance. And so therefore, my conclusion is this person has to be insane. I mean, I start to be corrected if there's another yardstick for this behavior.
If more evidence comes out, then we can review
exactly. But based on the evidence, so I'm limiting it to the facts that we have based on the evidence. But if there are more, please, I stand to be corrected. But if there aren't, I also stand to be corrected that there's another spectrum beyond being insane. If someone to do something like that, because I don't get it. But yeah, but that's what we see in the community, and these are stories that we have to bring and share, and also that people can also learn from, that we all as well can learn from as we, talk about them. Now, talking of fraud, if you're an international student, please protect your peace and your pocket. Listen to this. The FBI is currently seeking information on an individual involved in a law enforcement impersonation scam, specifically targeting Chinese national students based in the US. The scammer will contact international students, pretend to be an FBI agent or maybe a Chinese police officer, and claim the student is in a trouble with the law or is facing deportation. Of course, they threaten them until the student panics and begins to wire thousands of dollars, Wale. This is ridiculous.
Unfortunately, the strategy they are using is this scam that has been common in the United States for a while. I've not heard about this in any other country except the United States, but not in the student area. So I think that's the ingenuity of this person's crime. I've read about it when it comes to taxis. Scammers are going to they call several people, tell them the IRS is after them. And, people they don't want any issue, especially when it comes to their finances. They don't want any issue. They don't want any thing to disturb their credit history. So a lot of people panic when they hear someone that's claiming to be from the IRS, and they usually, send, not usually, at least, if you think about it, if you cold call like 1,000 people, you get just one person, you're already balling, right? So you already have a lot of fraudulent money from that source. So that's what a lot of them do. They do for taxes. They do for what's the other common one? For banks, claim to be from your bank, and they say there's an issue or whatever. The financial sector is very common with these kinds of scammers. So for me, this is the first one. And as a student, especially if you're young, you don't even know a lot of things. You are not even sure if someone is claiming on that section something of the law, of the constitution or of the state's law. You're not even sure how the law is applied, what it means, how to verify if this person is telling the truth or not. And then especially if they have some information, some personal information on you, it can be scary, very scary for a young person, and you're a foreigner, you're in the country, you're trying to get your education, and then you really just want this to go away. So if you are watching this as a student, please take notes. Even as an adult, if you have a nephew or someone who is going to school in the United States, possibly, these scammers might start thinking about doing it in other part of the world. Please pay attention to these kind of things, especially if you're in a situation when someone is trying to get you to hurry up and part with your money. That's a big red flag. Always go straight to the police. Don't even hesitate. Just go straight to the police.
Well, you're right about that. And I hope that our listeners, even not just, people from Asia, this happened to people from every part of the world outside the US who are trying to come immigrate to the US. So please pay attention, listen to some of the instructions and advice, especially for people, who navigate to the foreign countries, especially when there are language barriers, and, English is not first language for most people from Asia. So I can understand why they will easily fall for scheme like this. And even people from other parts of the world who, even when English is even part of is one of their languages, they still fall for predatory schemes like this. But our advice is, like Wally said, go to the police when you have this kind of phone call, just for clarity, okay? Now, switching gear to official government cracks down. Let's talk about this, Wally. The Department of Justice have filed denaturalization actions in various U.S. districts against 17 individuals accused of serious offenses. People often think that once you get citizenship, you are completely untouchable. But that's not true. You can be denaturalized if for any reason you had committed fraud or you have lied on your application or anything in that nature, you can be denaturalized. And this is what happened with the story that we just shared. 17 people.
Yes. This is the largest actually that we've heard so far from the Trump administration about the denaturalization cases. Typically, the ones that we've seen in the past is usually people hiding their crimes, like the one that was an international arms dealer. I'm not sure if you remember that one. There was one that lied about, some other hideous crimes that, we can't speak about right now. And, usually they hide their crimes and they go ahead and apply for United States citizenship. So those ones is when they have been discovered, they are prosecuted, and they are denaturalized. Sometimes the arrest might have been before the Trump administration, but the Trump administration just is now processing them very quickly. But 17, like I said, is the largest. It goes to show that the Trump administration is very serious about this, and they want to make sure that the U.S. citizenship is treated with respect and awe whenever anyone wants to become a U.S. citizen. So becoming a U.S. citizen is not a joke. It's something that you commit your whole life to, and with the highest level of integrity.
Thank you, Wally. And finally, let's talk about the story about the Somali FIFA referee, Omar Atan, who was recently denied entry in the United States for the World Cup. Boy, oh boy. This one was shocking for the sport community, and it went viral, Wally. This is an international FIFA referee. He was supposed to come into the US for an official assignment, of course, to ref the World Cup. But Custom and Border protection turned him away. I mean, but this goes to show that it doesn't matter if you have celebrity status, a high profile job, or even an official for FIFA, the border agent have the final absolute say. It's frustrating anyways, and a frustrating reminder of how difficult travel and mobility can be for certain passport holders, even when traveling for official global sporting events like the FIFA World Cup.
I think one of the reasons why it became viral news is that there's been a lot of, I would say, reports about different events with the Somali community in the United States, and the biggest one is the fraud that was discovered in Minnesota. So that news has been very popular in the country for a while, and then you now have this one now happen again. So a lot of people are seeing this as a sort of attack on the Somali community. I read somewhere that it's because they identified that this particular referee has some sort of affiliation with some terrorist group back home. That's the main reason why he was sent back. So, but I wonder, why was the visa not denied? So for me, that's a question. Why did he have to come to the United States only for him to be sent back?
Well, that's a very valid point. Allegedly, right, that he has affiliation with some groups that they have concern about. But I'm surprised, like you said, they didn't pick that up during the visa application process. He's a FIFA referee. Anyway, I have no comments, Wally. I have no comment on this because I cannot fully understand it. But it happened, and it just goes to show, that the guys at the Custom and Border Protection have the final say, even if you have a valid visa.
Yes, absolutely. So that's something, if you're traveling to the United States, to be aware of, that the Custom and Border Protection, they always have the final say. So even though everything looks good, no matter how wealthy you are, no matter how connected you are, if someone at the CBP at the port of entry says you are not getting to the United States, you are not going to get in. So hopefully is able to be compensated by FIFA. And, I really just hope that things like this don't discourage people from visiting the United States.
Yeah, if I'm correct, I think UEFA has announced that he's going to ref the UEFA Club World Cup final, something like that. It's going to ref one of the UEFA competition that's coming up in the next couple of months.
Okay.
A couple of weeks, actually, yeah. So, but that's happening in Europe, so he's not going to have to deal with
so
US.
They have to make an exception for him because it's supposed to be a European referees, but for this special case, they wanted to compensate him in that way. Well,
yeah. But I think it's just, UEFA and FIFA have a very cordial, working relationship. So I can understand, some of the UEFA referees are also FIFA referees if you follow football properly.
Yes.
Yeah. So I can understand that, fair enough. But if you stay with us so far, thank you. Please like and subscribe as we're going to bring you, immigrant stories around the world and updates that might provide you with the kind of information and provide you tools to help you. Feel free to drop a chat in the comment and we'll definitely respond.
Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye now. Have a good one, everybody.